Retro Hangover is supported via Patreon by listeners like you. We would especially like to thank patrons Lyle McCarnes, Randall Quiggle, Tony G, Tom the Superhero, Studstill Smash the Milkman, Lucas from Game Over Hell, Raging Demon from Command List, Mast Keaton, JC, Ozzy Garcia, Megan Caruso, Dave Jackson from Tales from the Backlog, Retro Overdrive, Soha, Storm Beagle and Captain N from Retrotopia, The Emperor, Matt aka Stormageddon from Funning Games and Reignite Podcasts, Van Fernal and B. Ross from Super Garbage Day, Jared Breland, Keith Gasper from the Main Quest Podcast, Retro Vixen, Eric Guess from the Unlockables Podcast, Nomad from the Retro Wildlands Podcast, Ash Event, Alan Bingham, Mike the Ref from Backbreaker Gaming, Alt, Low 5 Alex from Low 5 Gaming, Oh Me, Gary Heather, Makeshift Money, Riskel, Sega Boy 7, and Adam R. Your continued engagement and generous donations are deeply appreciated.
Open your ears and crack some beers. You are now listening to the most recent episode of Retro Hangover.
Classic gamers, welcome to the podcast where we find fear following figures finishing figurative fellows fellatiating. This is Retro Hangover. I'm your co-host, Chris Copleen, with special guest, Nomad from the Retro Wildlands Podcast. And, as always, your host, Shane. Project Dick Origin Dragon Salter.
I would have included felonious fathers in the illiterate intro. Just saying.
If you had your chance to make edits, you didn't do it. Not my problem.
No, I doing it live, Chris. Putting you on the spot right now.
No. Well, let me just do that takeover again.
Yeah, just Ashley, just edit it in. It's fine. You can do that.
Edit in felonious fathers. Felonious fondling fathers.
Nope. Okay, that was too far. Too far.
Is it?
I did not suggest this.
You kind of did.
Nope, I did not.
You kind of did.
Dude, a felony can be many things.
You went down a dark path.
No, you took it down
we are here.
Fucking Diddy Boulevard, my guy. I didn't get anywhere near that.
Look, I'm oiling us up for a great episode. That's all I got to say here. And speaking of which, we have a great guest from the Retro Wildlands Podcast. His name is Nomad, and he's probably thinking, how did I wander into here? But Nomad, it's great to have you on the show. How are you doing, man?
Doing fantastic, both of you. And I gotta say, the very first time I ever heard you two, I was taken aback by the Dick Dragon announcement. I was almost put off, I should say. Almost to the point where I'm like, who the hell are these guys? What the fuck is going on?
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, now hearing it live in my ear holes with such grandiose projection, I thank you for this honor. This is wonderful, and I'm lubed up as well. We're doing this thing.
See, we're all oiled up, Shane.
Things are slick,
slippery.
The origin of that statement makes it even worse. Let's just get into what we're playing. How we start this show. We were talking about F.E.A.R, by the way, our second Spooptober episode of 2. So we are talking about the spoops here. But before we get into the game du jour, we talk about the games that we have been playing lately. And as tradition dictates, as we are wont to do, our guest gets to go first about what they have been putting into their console, PC, sometimes you don't even put it in anymore in terms of downloads or apparently felonious fathers. But Nomad, what have you been playing lately?
So for the first time, at least for me in a while, I'm not balancing like 3, 4, or 5 different games at once. I've got it down to one. And this particular game, I physically slid very gently into my PlayStation 5. I am tackling the Final Fantasy Tactics Ivalice Chronicles right now.
Nice.
I originally played Tactics on the PlayStation way back when. Like, very quick funny story. Like, I never would have known about this game, I don't think, if not for the creepy neighbor kid across the street. Hey, Dave, how's it going? I don't know if you're listening, but hey. But
was his last name Jackson?
Moving on. No, but it's funny. I made friends with my neighbor. He's a cool guy, all seriousness. But I got done playing Final Fantasy VII, and I did so much in that game. I didn't know what else to do. I was kind of jonesing for like the next great thing. And he told me he was playing through Final Fantasy Tactics, explained to me what it was. I could not comprehend this type of game. So going over his house every once in a while, he would let me play it. Eventually, I got to borrow it for like a month and a half. Like, he trusted me with it that long, and I played it to just absolute completion. Like, I really, really fell in love with Tactics, and I'm not even a strategy game guy, just in general. It's usually not my genre that I gravitate towards, but Tactics had that perfect formula, and it still does. So when the remake got announced, it was kind of one of those, like, the game's kind of good already. Why do we even need this? But now that I'm playing it, just all the extra quality of life improvements, the voice acting, like, it's very rare that I get to play a video game that takes me back to my childhood and gives me like that warm and fuzzy when I hit the power button on the console, and Final Fantasy Tactics Remake's kind of doing it for me. So yeah, I'm about maybe 7-8 hours into it right now and just having a grand old time. Oh, and it has a fast forward button that's just making grinding so much nicer. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
I'd have to experience that. So those of you who don't know, my handle on the social media forums is Zodiac. There's a place I got that from. Long story, but I'm glad to hear that you're enjoying it. I'm thinking about getting it. I played War of the Lions. I don't know if it was a year or 2 years ago, and I was just like the battle system still impressed me like a lot. Like, it's not so much the battle system, but the customization, the character customization, like the behind the scenes, everything you could do with the class system, everything, like fantastic. Like, I don't remember the plot gripping me. A lot of people have been saying the plot's really, really good. Are you still finding it that way?
I am. It's nice now going at it as an adult. I'd like to think I'm a little wiser than I was when I was like, 14, 15 when I played it back in the day. Yeah. I will say the addition of voice acting, and the voice acting is done very well most of the time. I find myself a lot more engaged with the dialogue and what's happening than I was when I was little. Problem is, I mean, this is still a very Game of Thrones-esque kind of a plot. There's a lot of cloak and dagger. There's a lot of backstabbing, and it's still hard to keep track of really what's going on. But I will say there's a feature in the remake that I haven't really played with too much, where at any point in the story when you're on the world map, you can press a button and kind of get pulled out, and it gives you kind of a chapter by chapter view of what's happened, what major players are doing what, who's going where. It's not completely all inclusive, but it's a hell of a lot better than what we got back in the day, which was click on a character's portrait, read about them, hope you understand it. So yeah, because I remember a lot of the features in the Japanese version got removed for the North American version. That really helped flesh out the plot and everything. That's good to hear. Okay, so I might dive into that. I might dive into that. It's not like I have all these other things in front of me, but I'm glad to hear that you're enjoying that. That's awesome. Really happy to hear that. I guess I'll go next because usually it's Shane than me. So I guess I'll change things up. I'll make it fresh.
How dare you?
Make it fresh. I know. I've been playing Silent Hill 4 recently for the RHRC. I've heard a lot of mixed things about the game. Mostly more on the negative side. I think the kind of like the tribal knowledge, the historic knowledge when it comes to Silent Hill is that everything after the first 3 games is kind of meh. And that Silent Hill 4 was the last game developed by Team Silent, but that didn't necessarily save it. I'm not hating it. I'm not hating this game. I can see
in a lot of ways what they are trying to do. Now, granted, I've only kind of made it through the first 2 chapters, if you want to call it that, of the game. I'm interested to see where it goes. There's this feeling that there's a feeling I'm playing it that Team Silent didn't want to get pushed into a corner and just keep on going to Silent Hill over and over again. So they kind of wanted to change it up while keeping the same themes and ideas. But at the same time, it also feels like they got a little high off the success of Silent Hill 2 and were like, yeah, let's do another weird one and see how this goes. Mixed results so far. Sound design is horrendous, by the way. It's not even like good horrendous. It's just bad. You get the Wilhelm scream. You get you get like dogs screaming like cats in the most generic way. The voice acting is so bad, it's just bad. It's not like even humorously bad. It's just bad.
Ugh.
It definitely feels like Konami was trying to push them out. They gave them no budget. I have no idea about the history of the game. But right now I'm not hating it. I find it extremely charming. But I don't know how I can wrap my entire mind around it. So I'm going to try and finish that for our RHRC crew and see how that goes. I've also been playing Galactic Attack for the Sega Saturn, also known as Layer Section, also known as Gunlock, also known as Ray Force. And that's always a fun game. That's always a fun game. It looks beautiful to this day. Sprite work always works. And a good shooter is always a good shooter. I will never beat that game, by the way. I'm never going to beat that game. But it's still a good time. Still a great time.
Yeah, when you mentioned Ray Force, that clicked with me. I've not played it, but I've seen it before. It looks fantastic. But going back to Silent Hill 4, of all the Silent Hills, I'm a huge fan of the series. That is the one game I have yet to play myself. I played all the other ones, Western and Eastern developed and all of that, but I missed out on that one. Mostly because I didn't have the means to play it because I don't have $100 and however many dollars lying around for a physical copy. But now that I have other means, I may give it a shot. But I've heard a lot of what you were saying too. Like it's kind of a mixed bag all the way around. Although you're the first person I've heard that actually has called the game charming, which actually intrigues me more. Like I really want to understand where you're getting that from. That excites me.
I don't know if charming's the right word, but I do find it charming. Maybe my mind is just broken. Very possible. Very possible. Yeah. Charming. I'll stick with charming. Shane.
Yeah, I think just to further pontificate on Silent Hill 4 for a second, since I too am a big Silent Hill fan. I think it had the unenviable task of following up the first 3. Like the first 3 are just not perfect, but fucking a fantastic trilogy of games. And that's really hard to follow up. And so I think if it were divorced from like that precedent, I think maybe some of the viewpoints on it would be a bit, more positive than perhaps they are. I recall enjoying it, but then again, I basically binged like all of the first like 4 because the rest of them hadn't even come out yet at the time. But like the first 4 Silent Hill games kind of like almost back to back with a buddy of mine, like way back in the day. So I was just really into it. It is definitely its own thing. And I already told Chris, there are some weird things that I don't like about it. Like the escort parts are garbage. But anyway, this isn't a Silent Hill 4 episode. So what am I playing?
It could be Patriots.
I feel like that's going to come around eventually. I mean, we need to talk about 3 first. 3 is good. Anyway, though, what I got going on, what do I have going on? Probably not much as usual. So I've got a couple of mobile games that I'm keeping busy with. Oh, I actually have a good recommendation for one. It's called Quest Lord. If you're into first person dungeon RPGs a la like Wizardry, things like that, I would recommend it. It's pretty good. It was either a one-time purchase or it was like a one-time purchase to unlock everything or something like that. I don't remember. But the point is there are no ads, no gotcha garbage. Like it is just a straight up dungeon RPG and it is super retro. and it's pretty good. So I've been enjoying that. Also, it's portrait mode. I don't know if that matters to as much people as it does to me, but I really, really like, I will not play a game sometimes because it is in landscape mode, because I'm just that lazy and I want to hold my phone just fucking normal. So that's a bonus for me anyway. But I recommend that. I would not necessarily recommend, because then I feel like I would be putting my support behind shitty monetary practices, but I got sucked in anyway. It's a game called Acecraft, and it's like, it's a shmup with Cuphead art style, and it's like really good, but it sucks because it is just rotten with microtransactions. So that's a bummer, but the game itself is like, it's really good. Like, I wish that it was not monetized that way, because there's a really solid, like, well put together game there with a fantastic art style, but it's like just riddled with battle passes and bundles and all that shit. So, but I'm still playing it so far. It's been enjoyable. And then I guess the only other thing is what I played on stream. At the time of this recording, it was yesterday, and I played Bleak Sword DX, and man, I really like that game a lot. It's like bite-sized 2D Dark Souls, and I am fucking here for it. It is real good. I intend to finish playing through the rest of it, whether that's on stream or not, to be determined. But I'm definitely going to play the rest of it because I really enjoyed the couple of hours that I spent with it. So I also highly recommend that. I don't think it's still on sale now. It was when I picked it up, but you know, it's $10 normally, so it's not a huge ask anyway if you pick it up on Steam. Also a really good game for Steam Deck if you have one of those. So
$10, man. It's the future of gaming.
That's right.
Just saying it right now.
What, a $10 price point?
Yeah, man. I'm being serious. Like, all these indie games coming out, these high quality indie games, they're grabbing attention. Like, they're going for $10 and they're selling like hotcakes and they're getting attention.
Well, so it's because nobody wants to pay like $80 for a fucking game that's probably not even complete and needs a day one patch, and then also will continue to ask you for more money.
Yep. Might as well pay $10 and get asked for more money. I'd rather do that.
Or pay $10 and just have the damn game. What a novel concept.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of which, I played Dunkadillo on stream and I beat it in under 10 hours, but it was $10.
Oh, see, there you go.
Under 10 hours, under 2 hours. Also a fun game.
That is also technically under 10 hours.
Yeah, it is under 10 hours. Also a fun game. Really, really fun. It's not incredibly deep, but it's fun. There, I got to shout that out.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you, Matt, aka Stormageddon from the Fun and Games podcast, for recommending that. It was a great game to play on stream.
Yeah, I mean, the longer this show goes, inevitably, just the more we're going to be the old men sitting on a porch yelling at children. So it's fine.
We already are.
Yeah, kind of. I feel like it's, you know, it's a natural evolution. I feel comfortable settling into it.
We'll be wandering the Retro Wildlands.
Hey.
Yeah, we got a bunch of little whippersnappers running around every once in a while. Actually, that is now my wife and mine's favorite activity on some warmer days. And quite recently, we've had a couple kids come out of nowhere on their skateboards, not paying attention to cars around here. And whoa, does that like boil our something? Those bastards. I'm sure they're nice kids.
Tell them to go back inside and play Tony Hawk or something.
Yeah, there you go.
I've heard that's good. I've heard that's a good game. Heard about it. Anyway, we have a video game to talk about, Shane.
Oh, we do. Okay.
We do. That video game is F.E.A.R. I wish there was an easier way to say that. F.E.A.R.
No, you got to say the whole thing. Yep.
First Encounter Assault Recon.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, that's the name of the game. Some people call it F.E.A.R. I think that's a little too on the nose for Spooptober. I don't know.
Hell yeah.
But we do got to go over the brief history.
Oh, okay.
For these games. Just got to say, Shane, how about you're the first person shooter between the two of us? The first person shooter expert, fanatic.
You need to add more to that. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So how about you give us a brief history of F period, E period, A period, R period.
Oh my God, I hate you. Also, I'm not the one out of the two of us that owned a trench coat. Moving on.
Multiple.
All right, let's talk about one of the most stylish and atmospheric shooters of the mid-2000s. A game that blended bullet time gunfights with psychological horror and made it all feel pretty seamless. We are, of course, talking about F.E.A.R. Development officially kicked off around 2003. There was a lot of buzz going around that Monolith Productions, the same studio behind Condemned and Shogo, was secretly working on a new project under publisher Vivendi. And, as it turned out, that speculation was correct. By mid-2004, early marketing started to trickle out, confirming that something big was coming. At that point, the game's working title was Signal, and conceptually, it had its roots in Shogo Mobile Armor Division, Monolith's 1998 anime-inspired shooter. The team wanted to evolve that sense of high-octane action, but this time with a major twist. Director Chris Hubbard envisioned a combat system that would allow players to slow down time, turning each firefight into an intense, choreographed shootout straight out of the movies. His biggest inspirations? John Woo's Hard Boiled and, of course, The Matrix. And if you've played F.E.A.R, you can absolutely feel those influences in every shattered window and every slow-motion shotgun blast. But Hubbard didn't want just adrenaline. He also wanted fear, literally. Alongside programmer Kevin Stevens, the pair drew heavily from Japanese horror cinema of the late 90s and early 2000s. Movies like Ringu, Ju-on the Grudge, Dark Water, Akira, and Cairo became the creative blueprint. They wanted suspense, not jump scares. Cerebral dread instead of splatter horror. Subtle shadows, flickering lights, and the creeping feeling that you were never quite alone. That is where Alma comes in, the eerie, childlike presence that defines F.E.A.R's horror identity. Her design draws clear inspiration from those ghostly figures seen in Dark Water and Seance. Even her name, Alma, came from a character in Peter Straub's 1979 novel Ghost Story. She's not just a villain, she's a symbol, something primal that lingers in your memory long after the fight ends. Monolith didn't stop at atmosphere and gameplay. They also built an incredibly advanced AI system called GOAP. I'm gonna go with GOAP, which stands for Goal-Oriented Action Planning.
Goop.
Instead of enemies just reacting to the player like in most shooters at the time, the AI would actually think, forming plans, flanking, taking cover, and improvising based on the situation. That system became one of the game's biggest technical triumphs and, later on, one of its most frequently cited points of praise. F.E.A.R officially launched for PC on October 18th, 2005, worldwide. A port to the Xbox 360 landed the following year on Halloween, pretty fitting, and the PlayStation 3 version came out in April of 2007. Those console ports, handled by Day One Studios, were impressive for the time, matching the PC version on maximum settings while bumping things up to 720p resolution. The Xbox 360 version even added new lighting effects and enhanced particle systems, which made these slow-motion gunfights look absolutely stunning. And here is a cool little bit of trivia. Years later, in 2022, that same Xbox 360 version received a surprise 60 frame per second upgrade when played on the newer Xbox Series X. The catch? You had to own a physical copy, because it is still not available digitally. Critically, F.E.A.R landed solidly. The PC version scored an 88 on Metacritic, with the 360 and PS3 versions clocking in at 85 and 72, respectively. Reviewers were obsessed with how clever the AI felt and how satisfying combat was, calling it some of the best in the genre. Sure, there were some knocks against the story and lack of enemy variety, but when the gameplay is that refined, it's hard to complain too much. Commercially, F.E.A.R was deemed a success, even though we never got solid sales numbers. It performed well enough to fuel multiple follow-ups. We got Extraction Point and Perseus Mandate as DLC expansions, along with Gold and Platinum editions for the PC. And then in 2008, F.E.A.R 2 Project Origin carried the series forward into the next generation of horror shooters. When you step back and look at it, F.E.A.R wasn't just another corridor shooter. It was a bold experiment that nailed both ends of the spectrum: cinematic gunplay and unsettling horror. Few games have struck that balance as well since. And that is your brief history of F.E.A.R.
All right, thank you, Shane, for that brief history you were condemned to read.
Thank you.
One of the things that made me feel old while looking up the history of the game, man, I feel old saying that it came to the Xbox 360 and received an upgrade to 720p.
Yeah. Yep.
And then it was like, yes, 17 years later, it finally became natively 60 frames per second.
Finally.
Good Lord. We're old, man. Going back to that.
Yeah, well, I mean, much like Condemned, I mean, even if you buy this game on Steam, which I have it, to get a good experience that also doesn't fucking crash because it doesn't allocate more memory than 2 gigs, you also need to patch this game. Like, it was the same deal with Condemned. Like, it's that early to mid-aughts games for the PC that just suffer a lot of these problems. And it's that large address aware issue with memory allocation. But the nice thing is the patch that I found, the community patch, also, included all the bells and whistles. So I got full ultra wide resolution and like up-resed textures and all that fun stuff. So I can confirm that with a small bit of tweaking, this game still looks and plays fantastically in 2025. So there you go.
All that comes with GOG, because on GOG they have F.E.A.R Platinum as part of the preservation.
Oh, that's good.
Program. Yeah.
I mean, I already owned it on Steam, so it was like, whatever, but that's good to know.
Yeah. Nomad, how did you play this game?
I ended up playing it on my PlayStation 3, and I kind of wish I played it on PC. It certainly wasn't a bad experience, but I think there's a reason why it got the lower of the Metacritic scores. We'll probably get a little bit more into it as we get into like audio and gameplay and stuff like that, but it had some noticeable drops in frame rate. The audio was a mess. Like, I ended up playing the game with headphones, and the surround sound was just... It's one of those where I couldn't quite tell where sounds were coming from. We'll talk about the enemies and their awesome AI here in a bit, I'm sure. But like they'll chirp back and forth to each other, and like in my headphones, they sound like they're all around me, and I can't tell if they're to my left or to my right. Audio from your radio buddies and stuff was muffled, even though I played with my sliders a little bit. So I had a hard time following the story a little bit because of that. But control-wise, it was fine. Graphics are kind of what you would expect for the PlayStation 3. They weren't top tier, obviously, but they were serviceable and everything was fine. The blood effects were wonderful. It's always nice, regardless of your resolution, seeing a cloud of mist after a shotgun blast. But
yes.
But yeah, PlayStation 3 for me. I've had all 3 of the F.E.A.R games on PlayStation 3 for a while now, so it's nice to have finally started this journey with them.
Sorry, I'm sorry, what, 3? 3 games? I didn't know there were 3. No, I thought there was only there's just the 2. Yeah. No, I don't know what that third. Yeah, I've never seen that. No, it's just
this is a sore
they
spot
made 2.
Shane.
They just made 2 of them as far as I'm aware.
That
looks like a bootleg.
We found a
this here, for those that can't see the video here, this is F.E.A.R, but the E is a 3. But now we know it's legit. But this edition is actually packaged with the movie the movie Orphan for some reason.
Oh wow,
that seems like something that they would have done. Yeah, okay.
That seems like quite the crossover.
Indeed.
I played on my Xbox 360, which was a mistake. Because I thought I could seamlessly transfer between my Xbox Series X, which is where I started off on. And by the way, yes, like you can tell there is a difference, and it is like, it's great. Like if you have a physical copy and you have an Xbox One or Xbox Series X, all 100 of you can have this experience. It's like markedly better. It is. Wow. It is like, I'll get into that later, but I was able to take the cloud save and I was like, oh, I can transfer this over to my 360. And I started playing on my 360 because my children are campers over on my main TV and won't let me enjoy my things. Little shits. I kid, kind of. So I was like, I'll just kind of play over here on my 360 and wait for an opportunity to do the cloud save over on my Series X. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, and it seemed to be a problem and it hadn't recovered since, like there was like a nationwide Xbox Live 360 outage, even though it's technically offline, but they still have the cloud saves. Ever since then, my Xbox 360 has had every single problem imaginable connecting to Xbox Live. So saving a cloud save like didn't happen. So here I was now stuck on this damn system. I don't want to say damn system. You're a good little 360. Gotta pet it. I'm stuck on the 360 when the superior version is over there right in the living room, and I can't even move over there because the cloud saves don't want to work. It's horrible. It's horrible, and I feel violated. But that's how I played. I played on the 360. I played it on the, I guess, at the time of release, the superior version.
Yeah.
It was in 720p, Shane. 720p. Can you imagine?
I don't think my brain can process that many pixels and or scan lines.
No, especially with the Dell XPS system.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll talk about that later too. Yeah.
Hold up. Was that I will get it. What was that in the PS3? Did it have that Dell XPS screensaver?
I mean, it was in my version for sure.
Yeah. Did you see that, Nomad?
I did not.
It wasn't in the PS3 version.
I don't think so.
Interesting.
Oh, wow. Like, yeah, so I guess we'll get into it now. When you go up to some of the PCs in the game, it was in the 360 version. Even when I was playing the Series X, like, upgrade, I don't know if that matters or not, but when you go to the screen, it says, like, Dell XPS.
Well, not only that, they were literally Dells. Like the towers were Dell XPS towers.
Yes.
Okay, I remember seeing the logo on some of the monitors, but that was about it. But I never got real close enough to really see that. I didn't pay that much attention. Usually what I did when I got close to something breakable, I would just hit it and then the monitor would shatter. So
okay, that makes
well, there was that, and then there were the Alienware laptops too.
Yeah. Is Alienware even still a thing?
I think maybe. I have no idea. Anyway, personal experiences. We haven't even gotten to that yet.
No, we haven't. I'll get this started because I'm going to be the shortest. I had heard about it. I'd never played it in preparation for this episode, but I had a feeling Shane would like it because he has talked about it before in the past. So I put it on the schedule and decided to play it. I also specifically got the physical version of the game for the 360 so I could play it on the Series X, see how that turned out. But because I heard of the upgrade, I was like, I got to get the physical version because I can never buy this game digitally for whatever reason. I don't know the reasons for it. But if I want to play the superior console version of the game, because I like playing with controllers, I'm going to get the physical version. So that's my personal experience. That's the long and the short. Nomad, we'll go with you next. What's your personal experience here?
Yeah, I don't have too much of a personal history with this game either, save from hearing about it in passing as I got more and more into gaming growing up. But kind of like I alluded to earlier in the episode, when I was younger, I really got into scary games like in a hurry. Like the original Resident Evil on the PlayStation, the original PlayStation set me down the path of horror, and I absolutely loved it. Actually, kind of thinking back to it as a 14-year-old at the time, should I have been exposed to all that pixelated and polygonal violence? I turned out okay.
Yes. Yes.
But Resident Evil became Silent Hill, and then later Silent Hill became like Dead Space, and then that became Outlast. Like I absolutely love the genre, but during that journey, like I had heard about F.E.A.R. I kind of knew what it was, a combination of first-person shooter horror, but it just something about it just never made me just drop what I was doing and playing it, and go play it, even though it had everything like a growing boy needs, a bullet time mechanic, state-of-the-art AI, all that sort of stuff. So it really wasn't until you, Chris, came to me and said, "Hey, we'd love to have you on the show. Here's a list of games," and then I saw F.E.A.R. and realized, oh. Ever since I started my physical game collection behind me, I've got a decent amount, and I'm just trying to collect games that I want to play physically. Scooped up all.
That's very impressive.
Thank you. I scooped up all 3 of the F.E.A.R.s when I saw them at my local retro game store. Like they were just sitting there beckoning, calling to me, whispering in the dark. So I grabbed them and then sat on them for 2 years until you came calling. So. The PlayStation 3 is where I wanted to play it. I love my 360, but my 360 is in the attic, dead, but I refuse to get rid of it. I'm going to try to fix it one day.
Yeah. I unfortunately have 3 360s. I think all of them work. I know 2 of them work. I'm weird, though.
I ended up getting, they made a Final Fantasy 13 special edition 360. Like, there was nothing really special about the actual face of it, but it came with a hard drive, and then I bought a faceplate for it with lightning on it. Like, it was really cool until I got ye old red ring, oh death.
Yeah, customizable faceplates. I wish we need to bring that back.
Agreed.
Shane.
Yes.
You seem to have some feelings here. What is your personal history with F.E.A.R.?
Well, considering F.E.A.R. dropped in 05, that would have been, well, yeah, that would have been like first year of college-ish for me. So this was like perfect timing. Also, it's coming right on the heels of Half-Life 2. So I've been pretty big into I should qualify this single player FPS. Every time I say I'm into FPS, people are like, but you don't play like Call of Duty. No, I don't like multiplayer FPS. I like single player experiences. But anyway,
this is a multiplayer FPS.
Say the what now?
This is a multiplayer game.
I mean, it can be if you want it to be, but I don't want it to be. So it isn't. Anyway, so yeah, no, it dropping in 05. Like, I don't think I picked it up on release necessarily, but definitely in the same year. So I was playing it pretty early on. I think I should have double checked before we started recording, because I have all of my physical PC games in these nice little binders that I got for them to preserve them. And I'm pretty sure I still have my physical copy of F.E.A.R. for the PC. I think it's in there. But anyway.
When they still made them.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I don't have the box, though, which is unfortunate, but wasn't one of the ones that I ended up keeping for whatever reason. But yeah, so that's kind of, I started off early with it, and then I was really hyped for the sequel. I recall that. And, they left it on a high note with 2 games. So there you go. Incidentally, our guest du jour also brought up Dead Space, another fantastic series that had 2 entries and then, left on a high note. So there you go.
No, there was Extraction.
What? Sorry, what now?
All good things come in 2.
That's right.
Just 2.
Just like Sith Lords.
I don't know enough about Star Wars to make a comment there. Someone will. Shane, you made it awkward.
You're welcome.
Continue with your story.
That's the whole story. Like, I don't have anything else
That's
for
the
you.
story?
I played it when it came out, and it's good. There you go.
You spoiled the end of the episode, you fucker.
Listen, man, I don't think anybody that even has a passing knowledge of me and the things I like were thinking there was even a snowball's chance in hell that I was going to say this game's not good. Okay.
Yeah. It's going to be fun talking about Doom 3 sometime. It's going to be great.
That one will be interesting. That is true.
It will be. Yes. Anyway, moving on. Speaking of stories, and Shane's terrible story just ended.
Wow.
Abruptly.
I mean, that's just okay. No, that's my personal experiences, and you're just taking big old shit on. No, it's fine, Chris. It's cool. I appreciate that. Thank you. Keep going. Yeah.
And I've been eating cheese. So the story for F.E.A.R., and I'm reading right out of the manual. Everyone can see the manual. It's not digital. Scarface is on the back of the manual. Is it the same on the PS3, by the way? Is what's on the back of the manual for the PS3?
Let's check
Nomad
it out.
did bring out the PS3.
Scarface.
Hey,
It is Scarface.
Yeah.
Even though like an entire year later, they're advertising the same game. Well, not an entire year. This was Halloween.
what was the subtitle for that game? Like The World Belongs to You or something like that?
The world is yours.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that was close.
All right. I'm going to read the story of F period, E period, A period, R period. Here we go. Straight out of the manual. Xbox One. So if there's any difference, I have Nomad here to keep me honest. So here we go. In 2002, the U.S. Army formed a secret unit dedicated to combating paranormal threats to national security. The unit was named First Encounter Assault Recon. As the point man for this special unit, you will face threats that no other military team is trained to deal with. You are the elite among the elite. A powerful arsenal of sophisticated weaponry and superior physical skills will help you face the challenges ahead of you. But it won't mean a thing if you aren't mentally prepared for the unexplainable. Learn to expect the unexpected. Welcome to F period, E period, A period, R period.
Not only is that agonizing to listen to you do, it's equally as agonizing to type out.
That's true. It's horrible. What were they thinking? What were they thinking?
Someone was in a room somewhere and says, okay, we have the word fear to work with. Who can think of an acronym? Yeah. Jones, what do you got? And it went from there.
Like, First Encounter Assault Recon doesn't even make sense. Like, it's just gobbledygook words. You could tell they just threw them in there. There's like a random name generator. They put it into like proto chat GPT. They could feed it words and just like spat it back out at them. I think that's what happened. That had to have been what happened. Okay, so let's get into the story here. Let's start out with Nomad. Nomad, what did you think of the story? What did you think of the plot of F.E.A.R?
Well, I've got two trains, or two ways that I think of this. Like I'd mentioned earlier when I was talking about the audio on the PlayStation 3, the audio was bad enough where I did have a hard time understanding what was happening for a little while. In the game, it does a really good job of setting up what's going on in the story based on, of course, dialogue, but you can also find voicemail messages on phones and laptops you can download and have your team members kind of decrypt and give you an idea what's going on. Piecing everything together and figuring out why it is that you're doing what you're doing and why the hell you keep seeing these just visions of this little girl in a red dress and why you keep seeing figures moving amongst the shadows is actually really compelling. I liked it a lot. The problem, at least in my playthrough, is I had a hard time putting that together during the initial playthrough just because I had a hard time. And that's another thing too. There's no captions in this game. So if a character was speaking and I misheard them or didn't understand what they were saying, I'm one of those people that puts my like captions on when I'm watching Netflix. It was hard to kind of keep track of at first, but once I finished the game, kind of put a lot of it together, I liked what I had. Once I went back later, actually wikied it and read the bits and pieces of the story that I kind of missed, everything fell into place in a really, really awesome way. Like this story, without really spoiling anything, it's like...
You can spoil it. I don't care.
Sweet. All right, we're spoiling all the shit here.
Let's go for it.
I love how the story it starts off as just kind of your standard issue, typical military operation. Well, not typical. The first thing you see is a guy eating another person, but I digress. But I really enjoyed how you kind of went in and everything was kind of just standard issue by the numbers at first. But the very first mission does a really good job of setting things up as in, like, we already know going into this that there's going to be some paranormal stuff going on. It's practically in the name, but I loved how the game slowly built the tension around a lot of the things that you saw, the people creeping in the shadows, the different visions that would pop on your screen. You didn't quite know what was going on, but you felt very compelled to just continue to push forward and try to put all these little pieces together. and ultimately figuring out that, I mean, one could argue it's kind of your typical like grand corporation is messing with people and finding a way to take advantage of, create psychic soldiers that are going to control soldiers, that kind of thing. Like, it's part of me is kind of like it's kind of been done before, but I still think it was done really, really well. And how this character, Alma, she starts off being this sort of antagonist, like she's clearly out to just destroy you, right? All she is just this little rage bubble making everybody catch fire and melt their skin off. But as you put the pieces together, it's actually kind of tragic how she's being used by this corporation to birth two psychic soldiers that can control the masses. And it's pretty deep when it wants to be, and I really appreciated it. I just wish in actual gameplay, and all my audio issues notwithstanding, I wish it was presented in a little bit better of a way. There's a lot of ambiguity. On one hand, it's kind of nice, but on the other, it would have been a little nicer to really fully understand some of the objectives that I was doing more so in the moment. The loading screens were great about kind of saying, all right, Point Man, you're doing this, and this is your objective, but why? I got lost on the why sometimes. So that's where I'm at in two camps. The story is great. I think it was put together great, but the presentation and the digesting of it is a little rough for me.
I think I would agree with you on a lot of fronts here. In terms of once you know what the story is, yeah, it's a good story. Once you're able to put everything together, you're right. It's a tragic story. You definitely feel for Alma and what happened to her. Like, everything around her is like, oh my God, like that's terrible. I understand why you want to kill everyone that's coming for you, and why you're working with the guy who was eating someone at the beginning of the game, and why, you know, this was it Delta Force or whatever, Bravo Force, whatever. You want to stop them from like releasing you from stasis. At the same time, a lot of that plot, I felt like in order for it to make sense, you needed to get it from external sources to really put it together. I don't feel like the game put in a ton of effort in explaining what was going on. And it felt like they came up with an idea for the gameplay first, and then were like, wouldn't it be cool if we did with the plot afterwards? It didn't feel like they really, really cared about the story and how that would be implemented, which, by the way, is a fine way to make a video game. I think if you're trying to make a video game, you have to focus on the gameplay first and then do the story. I think that's entirely acceptable. I just don't think they necessarily cared about it. I don't think they really cared what direction it went in. It didn't feel that way. The fact that if you want to figure out anything that's going on in the game, you have to get it from those answering machines, which are totally optional. And I think they're kind of redundant and get annoying to listen to, when it's like you get you're getting a voicemail from Wade, whatever his name is, and it's like, this is Wade so and so. Like, who are you calling? Why do they always have to say their name when they get there? Like, it says, this is a message from so-and-so, and they're like, this is Genevieve, and I just want you to know that you need to get the fuck out of there and everything's going insane. Like, why do you have to say it's Genevieve? We already know it's Genevieve. We already know it's Wade. We already know these things. I like, just get to the point. I also I think what's more interesting, other than the voice messages, is when you find the computers, you can download the information. I think that feels a little bit more immersive. I think that feels a little bit more natural, because the voice messages are just like, why are they here? That feels forced. Again, it makes it feel way more tacked on than an actual story was meant to be. So I would say, like, the storytelling itself is pretty shit. But you're not. I don't think that really impacts the game overall. It does kind of take away from the payoff in terms of what's going on with Alma, unless you do some follow up on external sources later on, which kind of sucks, because like they're building up to something happening. And then I think at the end, it doesn't really pay off either. But I think when you go back in your review and you look at all the details you piece together, like you said, it is a good story. It's not a bad story at all. It's just I didn't like really get any of it, and I don't really think they cared if you did. Shane, what did you think?
I entirely disagree with like 90% of what you just said.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. So normally I'm not like the biggest fan of the, audio log thing, which again, we're bringing this back around. Something we'll talk about when we talk about Doom 3. But it made more sense to me here because like in a game like Doom 3, it seems weird that there are just these like rando audio logs lying around in weird places. Like it's clearly a very gamey thing to try to give you more like exposition. I didn't feel like that was so much the case here because if you really think about the situation that they're in, like these are all completely plausible messages that these people would be leaving each other in a corporate environment like this, like trying to call each other and being like, hey, so this thing we're doing, like this is getting fucked up. Like we got to put a lid on this shit. Like, what is this guy doing? Like this bitch is going off her rocker talking about whatever. Like I never felt like any of that was forced. And actually I also kind of disagree that like the storytelling is poorly done because even if you didn't listen to any or even most of the voicemails, you could still pretty easily put together what's going on just based on like the decrypted information you're getting from the laptops, the interactions that you're getting with your squad mates, your betters, you're the head of your squad, Paxton Fettel himself. There are plenty of opportunities where the story unfolds kind of organically on its own. So I'm having a hard time seeing how you feel that it was told poorly. I feel like you're harping on a really small point about like them saying their name in a voicemail. People do that, Chris. People say their names when they leave voicemail messages
every single time. All right. Everybody, every single time.
I mean,
in every instance.
Sure. That's just it's just a weird thing for you to latch onto, in my opinion. That's all. It just seems like a very weird,
it's a weird thing to hear audibly.
That like 2 seconds that you'll never get back at the beginning of that. Plus, like, okay, whatever. Anyway, that's fine. You're entitled to your opinion. I don't think it's right, but that's fine. No, I really like the story. It's very Silent Hill 1, but what if sci-fi? That's kind of like the sense that I get from it, because there's a lot of parallels there with kind of,
I do agree.
Yeah. So I definitely could see that, which also might be part of why I'm a little biased as to why I like it. But no, it's a cool concept. Like the fact that they were running this, like, underground experiment shit with the shady, corpos trying to create like psychic commanders with clones. Like to me, they went like really all in on this, actually, which was another thing that I'm like, I don't think that I felt like they didn't care about the story or whether you got it. Like, I think they cared quite a bit, actually, because there was a lot that was going on here. I mean, you had, like I said, you had Fettel, who was functionally the only one that succeeded in becoming a psychic commander, because they kind of pulled the plug after he went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But like having him being able to psychically control a bunch of like clone soldiers is a cool idea. And then like as things sort of unfold and you're realizing like, oh yeah, no, they did like some real heinous shit to like make this happen, because they found this naturally psychically gifted girl and basically turned her into a test experiment. And then she died. And they kept her corpse locked away inside this massive underground facility. But she was so strong that she could psychically, like, basically her psychic manifestation / spiritual entity, like persevered after her physical body died. And that's what's like terrorizing everybody. like that level of manifestation sort of like informs just how powerful of an entity she really is, which is terrifying. And then also, you know, the big twist about how, like, you know, you dude who can do bullet time is also, you know, that's your mom, and Paxton is your brother, and then you shoot him in the head, which I will say that one was actually confusing for me for a little bit until I put 2 and 2 together of like, oh, okay, I think they're going in the same route of like, if Alma can become this like psychic manifestation of herself after physical death, then I guess Paxton Fettel can also, because that motherfucker just like shows up again and he's like, I didn't like it when you killed me. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing here? Like, I executed you, my guy. Like, what is going on? But yeah, I don't know, man. I really dig the story, and I thought it was imparted pretty well, all things considered. Now, are there better ways to do it than the equivalent of like journal entries scattered around just in general? Yeah, probably. But I think they at least, in my opinion, I feel like they went the extra length to make it make sense in universe as to why these rando audio messages would even be there for you to find in the first place.
Yeah, I can go with that. As you were talking, Shane, I was kind of thinking too, like it was pretty, maybe not easy, but after a while, I was able to put a few things together on my own. Like I think I might have missed some voicemails or missed some of the audio logs on the laptops or what have you. But as certain events were taking place, especially near the end of the game, when I think his name was Harlan Wade, he reactivates Alma and gets her to come out of the cryostasis or whatever. I understood what he was doing. It seemed to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, like he kind of had a crisis of conscience and wanted to reactivate her so she could be free, which was a terrible idea just because everybody, I think, just like melts at that point. That to me was pretty easy to see without those journal entries and kind of the build up to that, that was good. I was able to piece that together. The ending, though, the whole reveal where I had caught wind that Alma had birthed 2 potential psychic commanders that they were going to form into. And I, for whatever reason, had no inclination that I, as the main character, was that second one, regardless of the fact that I could slow down time. I just figure that's something every normal person can do, but whatever.
Of course.
Right. So I kind of missed that, too. Like, I remember that specific scene where it's like first person perspective, like the doctor's pulling you out, right? And it's supposed to be you. And that was kind of lost on me. But that might have been a me problem, but I still think it wrapped up really well. And I love the very end where everything's kind of wrapped up and you see one more image of Alma kind of climbing into your helicopter. Yeah. And I thought to myself, is she alive or is she haunting me permanently now? Like, I kind of like the ambiguity of how it all wrapped up. So I think I can kind of float nicely between the two of you now, having hear both of you speak.
Harlan Wade, by the way, is her father.
Yeah.
So that's your granddaddy.
Daddy, no.
I don't know. I don't want to know where we're going with that. I have to ask, did you all find this game scary?
I mean, okay, not necessarily this, but that's because I've played it before. So it's one of those deals of like, I kind of knew what to expect. I will say I recall the first time I played it, I always try to make a point if I can with horror games to really like set the ambiance because I want maximum immersion. So like I remember purposefully, you know, sitting in a room, turning all of the lights off and playing this game alone so that I could really kind of get absorbed in it. And I think that helps a lot. But I mean, the first time through, I do recall there being some moments that were genuinely creepy. Now, they said that they didn't want to rely on jump scares, which they don't, but there are some, and this motherfucker got me twice. Okay. I was mad at myself because I knew it was coming. Okay. One of my favorite moments in this game, and even though I'm pissed at it, but I'm mostly mad at myself, but it's so good because like, it's really simple, but I've never seen it done quite this way anywhere else. And you go when you climb up and down ladders in this game, obviously it's first person. So like you have to actually interact with it and then you will kind of clamber onto it and you can slide down if you're going down or whatever. And there's this one moment when you're on this like catwalk and you go to climb down a ladder. And as you face the ladder to interact with it, and then it sort of locks you into an animation of you spinning around to kind of mount the ladder and go down. And as soon as you spin around to go down, Alma is standing right there in your fucking face. You're like, oh shit, I was not expecting that. So that was jump scare, right? But then you're like, okay, holy crap, but all right, fine. That's good. My heart's going to calm down here. You slide down the ladder, and as soon as you turn to start walking after sliding down the ladder, motherfucking Paxton Fettel is standing right there. Double scare. God, it's chef's kiss. It's so good. But like the thing that I'm angry about is that it got me again. I knew it was there because I remember that's like the one moment I remember more than anything else from this game playing it the first time. And I was like, okay, I know this is coming. It's somewhere. I don't remember exactly where, but I know it's coming. And then it happened, and I saw her at the fucking top of the ladder, and I was like, okay, there it is. She still kind of got me because she's a creepy little fuck, but all right, cool. That's fine. I forgot about the second part. And so like I slid down, and like a dumbass, I turned around and was like, oh shit. And like, I'm so angry that I got twice.
That's all right. That I'm glad you brought that up. That was by far my favorite one too. Same thing happened to me though, but it's like typical scary movie or jump scare technique that I usually see. It's like you get that tension build, and then you get that release, giggity, and then your guard is down. So yeah, when they did that second scare with Paxton, it was expertly done. It got me the first time too. It was great. I don't know if I really felt like I was scared throughout the game, though, although the game, I feel, did a really good job of building just tension in general. For a little while, I felt, at least the first 3 or 4 missions maybe, the game had a pretty good balance of explore, do a firefight, now you're in for some creepy shit. And it kind of it kind of paced itself really well. And I was never scared of what was going to happen. I was actually more excited to see what they were going to come up with next. Like, I feel like the different spooky things that they did were not just this particular jump scare, but at times where you would see Alma like in the distance, or there's a shadow kind of walking just out of frame. One of my favorite ones, I can't remember what the mission was. I don't think it was near the halfway point, but it was just, I think it was Paxton just kind of like leaning his head past the wall just enough where you could see him, and then his head just whips back in that kind of signs in the cornfield kind of way. Like, they were very creative with those kind of moments, and I really looked forward to them. And anytime they happened, like I got like that spooky kind of tingly, like, ooh, that was cool. But true fear, I didn't really feel. Tension here and there.
Yeah.
But one more thing I'll end on here, and I'm curious if you two feel the same way too. Like, I wish there was more, Alma. I wish there was more of that kind of stuff. And here's where I'm torn on saying that. On one hand, not that I'm a horror expert or anything, but just based on my experience, I really like when games or even movies will take whatever it is that you're supposed to be scared of or feel fearful of, and they keep it at arm's length. You don't see it. You don't hear a lot about it, at least not initially. I'm thinking of movies like Predator, right? Or Tremors. That's a great example. Like you kind of hear about these things, but you don't actually see them until the end. So it lets your imagination kind of do a lot of that. A lot of that
heavy lifting. Yeah,
exactly. But on the other hand, we didn't get enough of that in F.E.A.R, in my opinion. So it was to a point now where it's like I want a little bit more of that. Now I go down another dark lit hallway. I'm expecting something to happen, and then I just hear the chatter of more soldiers up ahead. It's like, well, I know Alma's not going to come out because I got to shoot some people.
Yeah,
that's a good point, actually, and that's something I wanted to bring up because it's a really valid point. Because you said the pacing is good, which generally it is. I agree, but it becomes a little too predictable, because they don't really ever mix and match, like you just said. It's usually either you can expect to have a firefight or a spooky moment, but usually not both. And once you get like, an appreciable way through the game, you start to recognize like layouts of areas to where you're like, oh, okay, this looks like an arena. And then you're like, oh, okay, this is a long hallway. That's going to be scary. So it does become a little predictable on that front. I will say that. I agree. I wish there was a little bit more, because there were definitely several times where I remember thinking to myself, like, that would have been a perfect spot for something to happen, and it doesn't. Now, having said that, they did a really great job, and I know Chris hasn't even had a chance to talk yet, but one last thing.
No,
they did a really great job of not putting all of the little scary like sequences just directly in front of your face. Like, things can happen that you might just totally miss if you don't happen to look in the right direction or your timing is a little off. And I actually really appreciate that, because it makes it feel much, much more natural and organic, rather than being like, hey, look at the scary thing we're doing. It's more like, hey, like one really great example is the elevator shaft. When the elevator falls and you have to scale the elevator shaft for just like a split second, and you might not even look at it necessarily. It's not like required, but for a split second, there's like a door that is ajar, one of the elevator doors in the wall. And if you happen to look, Alma is like right there, and then the door slams shut. But it's like this split second thing that you might totally miss. And I really appreciate that they kind of had, like, honestly, kind of the balls to do that, because like they put the effort into these little creepy sequences that the player's not guaranteed to see.
Yeah. So I guess I'll go next, because I guess this is my turn to talk. I kind of vibe more with Nomad, in the sense that I feel at the beginning of the game, the first couple missions, I would say like the first third of the game, there's maybe even a little bit more. There's a good balance. There's a good balance between fighting them bad guys and getting the spooks, which is trying to advance the story. But then there are just large swaths of the game just feel like it's a tactical military shooter. And there's really not much else to it. Like, there's no spooky Alma sequences. And even when you do start to get those spooky Alma sequences at the end, like later on, once you get enough of them, there's like no real consequences attached to it. So like going back to the Silent Hill comparison, it's like if you went into Silent Hill and then every time it went into Hell World, nothing could happen to you in Hell World. And I started to realize, maybe I'll run into one of these like weird ghost things, but it's not really of any serious consequence. And I'll just get back into the real world after fucking around here for a little bit. So a lot of those experiences were taken away from. But I will say, like, at the beginning, yeah, it was kind of spooky seeing like a little girl shadow like run off in the distance. You're like, what's going on over there? Do I want to go over there? Is something going to happen to me? And it just, over time, it was like, nothing's going to happen to me. There's no real consequence of anything that's going on over there. This is strictly for atmosphere, which is fine, by the way. That is fine. But like, you got less and less and less of that as the game went on. It just went from encounter to encounter to encounter to encounter. And I was like, when is this going to be this psychological horror experience? I'm just fighting the dudes. And I'll get to what I think about that, like, obviously next when we talk about the gameplay. But I think that's in terms of the storytelling and the atmosphere, in terms of that, there's just like too long of periods where it's just like, well, you got to be shooting the bad guys. Time to shoot more bad guys. Time to get into another firefight. Do you like firefights? You like bullet time? We got more of that for you. Oh, by the way, scary girl for 2 seconds over here. Okay, now another firefight.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
I mean, I agree with you. Yeah. Like, I think that there were some sections that went on, because apparently I can't talk on a podcast. It went on for a little too long. Specifically the combat sections. And what's interesting now that we've been kind of talking about this for a little bit, kind of circling back to that one moment with the double scare. It's interesting to me because like that was such a huge like subversion of your expectation that it's almost surprising that they didn't do that more. And specifically with the combat Like, because you wouldn't necessarily expect, if you're in a firefight with, a bunch of clone soldiers or whatever, that you would also have to deal with like accidentally going around a corner and seeing some spooky shit. Like, I feel like that would really go a long way to throwing the player off, because then you'd be more on edge, because you're like, I actually don't know what to expect. Like, this could happen at any time, and it doesn't. And so I think that's probably one of the biggest like downsides that I would see from how the game is like narratively constructed, narratively / I guess, I don't know, systematically constructed, is that there really should have been more of that subversion of your expectation, because it does become pretty rote after a while, where you're just like, yep, okay, combat, okay, now spooky girl, okay, more combat, and they never really mix the two.
No. Yeah, I think it was a very big missed opportunity. All right. I think we're kind of segueing into the gameplay naturally anyway. So let's just go there. And I'll kick this off. Like, I think as already been inferred, is a first person shooter. And people know I'm not the biggest fan of first person shooters. There is a bullet time element. It controls like a first person shooter you would expect to. You got the dual analog control on controllers, WASD, mouse, all the confusing extra things you got to do on a keyboard that I don't like.
Superior control scheme. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Of course. This might shock some people. I fucking loved controlling this game.
One of us.
I had such a good. No, not quite. Maybe. I had such a good time with the gunplay. I think that's the biggest reason I don't give a shit about the plot, because I was just like, I want to get into another firefight. I want to go up to people with my shotgun and blow their face off.
Turn them into a fine mist.
I enjoyed it. Yes. Or like even when you got challenging enemies, like when they were in armor, and I did play this on easy mode, of course, because that's what I do, especially on genres I don't care much about. But like when you get a challenging enemy, like the ones in armor, I was just like, I can't wait to fight these motherfuckers, because it's, how close can I get? How well can I place a grenade when everybody else is around them? What's the right weapon combination I have? Do I have enough ammo? Have I loaded up? How do I approach from a distance? How do I get closer? Those kind of things. Oh my God. I had so much fun. I had so much fun killing folks in this game. It was a blast. I loved every single fucking minute of it. And by the way, like, health recharges, health kits are plentiful. Yeah. They're all over the place. If you're running out of health kits, you're doing something wrong. This game wants you to have a good time. And I did. I loved it. I loved it. It's so good. The gunplay is so fucking good. That's coming from me.
I think that's the most I've ever heard you praise. I would almost say a game, but that's high praise, especially for an FPS. So I'm impressed.
I had so much fun. Nomad, what'd you think?
I had fun too, but I don't know if I could even touch your level of excitement, my friend. No, it was a fantastic time. And I know we just got done talking about the whole repetition, or the repetitious cycle of fight and then Alma, then fight and Alma, or what have you. But I honestly fell into the same loop of having a really good time. It controlled really well. It was very easy to maneuver around. I didn't get myself caught on geometry or anything like that. But the idea of working your way into an area where you know enemies are, try to get a feel for how they're there, think of what weapon you have in your hand, your bullet time mechanic, your reflex mechanic, I think they call it. It is finite, but it does recharge, so you kind of have to decide who you're going to go after first. Like, it felt a little tactical too in that sense. I liked being able to just go nuts on the first two enemies I saw, then pull back behind cover, let my reflex charge a little bit. And then while that's happening, the AI that we talked about at the top of the show is on full display, because you can hear the enemies chatter amongst each other. He's over there. Go flank around to the left. I see his flashlight, or whatever they're doing. It makes these scenarios very, very intense in that sense. No, I don't think I know a lot of people talk about the AI as like this really top tier thing. And at the time it was, but the AI in this game to me was still somewhat predictable. Like I kind of knew what they were going to do based on where I was and all that. And that's not a knock on the game, but I used that to my advantage, knowing that, okay, if I rush them, they're going to scatter and try to escape or go back into cover. But if I pull myself back, they may come after me 1Z2Z, and I would use that as a way to define my attack strategy. And I had a really good time with that. But at the end of the day, there is just something so gratifying about going into slow motion bullet time with a shotgun, shooting someone in the head, watching it just slow-mo fall away, and then you shoot the next guy, and he turns into a red mist. Come on.
Yes! Also with the bonus, like, slow-mo voice from, like, the other replicants around, where you blow the dude's head off, and he's like, oh, shit.
We need reinforcements.
Oh, man. Yeah. No, it's... Yeah, it's and you know what's wild is like we didn't do this on purpose, but who made Condemned Criminal Origins? The same company?
Monolith. Not the same team. Not the same team.
No,
but yes,
not the same team, but
studio.
It's just wild to go from that where the combat is to this, which is fucking phenomenal. Like, I had forgotten just how good the gunplay in this game is. Oh my God, it's so good. And you're right. Like, the AI still is pretty predictable once you kind of get the hang of it. But even having played this before, there was a couple of times they still surprised me. I sound like a lunatic, like when I'm playing this, like by myself in my office on my PC, because I'm just like, there are times, there was one I remember specifically where I was like hiding behind some crates and there was a group of dudes like ahead of me and I had picked one off, which, by the way, if you get the drop on them, your first shot is always a one shot, one kill, which is really satisfying. But I took one out and they were like, oh shit, he's here and whatever. And so like I could hear them up like in front of me. But one of the really genius things about what they did with the level design in this game to like really sort of accommodate the AI that they had built for these enemies is that almost every area has multiple points of egress. And so like if you're not keeping an eye on every single way that somebody could get to you, then you'll probably get jumped. And it happened to me a couple of times where they're smart enough to go around and flank, or they came behind me and I remember there was one of those that happened and I was like, oh, you motherfucker. Like, that was clever. You son of a bitch. And like, I was genuinely impressed that they had come around and shot me in the back. Cause like, even to this day, a lot of games don't do that.
No. Or like there'd be areas that would be like on rooftops and I had no idea where they were sniping me from. Like, I'd be looking around like, where are they shooting me from? I don't know where they are. I'm trying to find them. They're coming from that direction, I think, and I couldn't find them. Like they were outmaneuvering me. They're outflanking me. And that's not something you typically see. Yeah. Which is, I hate it in the sense that I'm very bad at these games, but at the same time, you got to tip your cap to it and say like, it's good. Now, some of the parts, I don't want to completely glaze this game up. I mean, gunplay is stellar. I'm just going to put that there. Gunplay, all of that stellar, bullet time stellar, crowd control when you know what you're doing. Oh, so good. But when it doesn't want to do that, when it wants you to figure out little puzzles in the world and you got to jump behind certain crates and then like navigate around like crawl spaces and stuff, I didn't like that. I don't think the game telegraphed a lot of that information very well. It's not a very well-crafted environmental game when it's like having you walk on ledges that are about 2 inches wide and that's the actual way you're supposed to do things. It doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel like that's what you should be doing, even if it is what you're supposed to be doing. Not a big fan of that. Not a big fan of when it's trying to kind of be a pseudo platformer. I don't like it when first person shooters try to be platformers. Like, stop it. Don't do that. It's not fun. It's not good. And it wanted to do that from time to time, which was like, no, bad. Aside from all the good that it was doing.
Yeah, I think I'm less down on that. I don't think there were any occasions I can recall specifically that it wanted it to be like a straight up like 3D platformer.
It wasn't horrific.
Yeah,
but they weren't good.
Yeah, they weren't great. I mean, they're probably the weakest part. I would agree for sure. I mean, I think I appreciated it just because they were there to kind of vary things up a little bit. I didn't find anything that was like too egregious. I don't think I ever really got lost. I will say that I did appreciate the minimal amount of collectibles, just the 2 upgrade things. I actually really enjoyed finding those because they were never really hidden in places that were so like obscure that I just never would have found it without a guide. Like I didn't really have too much trouble tracking those down. I think as long as you're thorough, like searching around the levels, you do a pretty good job of finding most of the health and reflex upgrades.
Yeah. What were you going to say there, Nomad?
I was just going to say, I largely agree with what you were saying, Chris, as far as like the whole, just in general, platforming in general. But there was one specific instance, you were talking about the snipers, and it made me think of, I think it's stage 8 or interval 8, as they call it, where you got the snipers out on the big buildings at night. There's one gap you have to jump over that's like a gap in the building that you're on or what have you, and they've got these little 2x4s that are kind of jutted out that you kind of have to jump on. I don't know if it was... Yeah, I don't know if it was the PlayStation or what, but like I had a hard time like using my thumbsticks to line up on... I fell into that gap like 3 times before I really got the hang of it. And then when I finally got the hang of it, then I got sniped by snipers that I couldn't find, and I was getting kind of pissed, but pissed in a good way, like, you sons of bitches, I'll get you.
Yes. I know exactly the spot you're talking about, too. Yeah.
Yeah, it was rough. I think that was one of the few times where I kind of got pulled out of the immersion a little bit, because now it's like, okay, now I got to detach and really think about how the game wants me to proceed from like a design standpoint before I get back into this immersive experience. But it's a small black mark on an otherwise pretty decent experience, I think. And then Shane, you brought up the finding the boosters, finding the extra health boosters that increase your health, and then the ones that increase your reflex time. Same thing. I liked that you could get rewarded for a little bit of exploration. They weren't hidden so far where you needed a guide, like you said. I like that. Like it was a nice way to thoroughly enjoy what these levels were supposed to be and find a nice reward. Although I kind of wish the environments were a little less repetitive and bland. Like I feel like when you see one office building, you've kind of seen half the game at that point, but that's kind of getting nitpicky.
Yeah, I would agree. It gets a little samey as the game gets on. I think if this game cut, I would say about a quarter of the time. If it cut about a quarter of the time, I think it would be a lot better for it, because it does get really samey in areas. A lot of areas where you have balconies above and then like a lobby below, and you have to shoot people above you while they're coming down, or you're above and they're shooting up at you. That happens way too often as it extends out, to the point where it gets a little predictable. Not saying it's not fun. It's a lot of fun, but it does happen a little too frequently, I would say. Now, in terms of weapons, I do like the fact that you can carry 3 at a time. And that means that if you find a weapon you really like, but there's not a lot of ammo for it, that you can just hold on to that weapon and hope you get ammo later. There was I got like this electronic laser weapon that they had later on in the game, which was awesome. And so I just picked that up and held on to it and just picked up all the ammo with it. But I started with dual pistols, and then I realized it wasn't doing any damage and just running out of ammo rapidly. So I got like an assault rifle. But then when I finally learned how to use the shotgun, I never put that shit down. So I never used the rocket launcher, because I don't like rocket launchers, because it always can kill me on the backsplash with the explosion effect. So I just stay away from those. And I feel like this game was too fast for any sniper rifle. Like I feel like there was a good enough job and enough ammo that you could accomplish that with your just standard assault rifle, like a machine gun assault rifle. So that was pretty much my loadout. That that zapper gun, a shotgun, and an assault rifle, and I just kind of ran through the game once I got all through those. It was a blast regardless. So, what was generally speaking your loadouts?
I mean, mine was constantly changing. I was always swapping. Like, and actually I had sort of the reverse problem in a way where I always wanted to carry more weapons than I could carry. Cause like they do a pretty good job of telegraphing like what they think you should probably use for the next encounter. A lot of times, like if you'll come up to an area and there's like a rocket launcher and some grenades sitting there and you're like, oh, all right, there's probably going to be a heavy dude up next. And 9 times out of 10, that is absolutely true. So like I was, and I guess in a way, maybe, I don't know. I was kind of irritated by it because I wish I could carry more. But then at the same time, I think it introduces an interesting element to where you kind of have to make those determinations of like, okay, what do I leave behind? Or what do I enjoy using more? Or what's going to be right for, what's coming up next? And so I cycled pretty frequently. Like there was a few, like I tried to hang on to the shotgun for almost the whole game because it's very satisfying, as we've said. But I would definitely continually swap out like for the heavier, like the rocket launcher or things like that when the situation called for it. But generally, I was always running with, let's see, one assault rifle, usually a shotgun, and usually some type of heavy weapon. That usually gave me a pretty decent spread to be able to take on almost anything, and that seemed to serve me pretty well. So,
What was your loadout, Nomad?
Pretty similar for the most part. I tended to swap between an assault rifle and a submachine gun. That one was constantly changing just based on what my ammo was and what was falling on the ground at that point. But once I got the pump shotgun, that never left my inventory. There was an automatic shotgun that I had found, but I never bothered I never bothered to try it, only because I don't know if this is a Call of Duty thing, but like usually when I think of like automatic shotguns, I think like the overall power is less in favor of fire rate. So I just wanted to be able to have like that just pump action and just feel the power behind that. And I ended up saving that. The third weapon I found and usually kept on me once I found it, it is the Type 7 particle weapon, which
That's one, yes.
Yeah. So same thing, like as soon as I found that, like I never let it go. Like 9 times out of 10, if you hit somebody's center mass or higher, they're not just evaporating, they just leave their skeleton behind. And I thought that was so good. That's the one thing, though, about the game. Like, I almost don't know how many different weapons there really were, because once I found, like, those 3, maybe the 4 when I swapped between the rifle and the submachine gun, I was pretty set and didn't really feel like experimenting. So I don't know if that's to the game's detriment or not, but that's kind of how I rolled with it.
Now, I'm curious, did you guys, how many of the, like, secondary weapons did you guys really use other than just straight up grenades?
None.
Yeah, other than grenades, every once in a while, if I was out of grenades, I figured out how to weaponize like the proximity mines. When you throw them, they don't just stick to the ground. They kind of hop skip like a hockey puck a little ways. So sometimes I would use those against some of the heavies, but I think you have like a sticky bomb or something you can detonate with a detonator. I never used that.
Nope. I never used that once because I was like, it was like the only one that prohibited you from still having a gun out. And I was like, this seems bad.
Yeah, and I don't want to die with a joystick in my hand. At least not in a video game.
At least not in game.
Right.
No. In real life, that's kind of sad too.
Okay, yeah. So I think for the most part, I was kind of the same. I really just relied on just good old fashioned grenades. I did make use of the proximity ones, more on like some of the more like boss encounters or like the heavy dudes, just because that was a lot more firepower and saved on ammunition. I will say that I might end up saying something that you both are like, the fuck are you talking about? Because I also played through both the DLCs and I think they introduced some different things. So that might be the case. But were the deployable turrets in the base game?
No.
The fuck are you talking about?
Okay, good. Yeah, okay. Well, I used those, but not in the base game. So there you go. I don't know at what point I should be talking about the DLC, but
the turrets. I mean, I did like controlling the turrets you would get on the screen.
Oh,
like
yeah,
when you find
those
the
were
cameras
cool
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Those are fun.
No, like there were little like
Yeah.
deployable like mini turrets you could throw and they'd stick to the floor or the wall, and they would they're autonomous turrets.
Oh, yeah, no, that was the thing.
Oh, okay. Well, fine.
I'm curious to ask, I know we're talking about weapons, but how did we feel about the game's flashlight mechanic?
It was dumb and I turned it off. So like that was that was one of the options that came with the community patch. Was in the config you could toggle it to have infinite flashlight, and I was like, yes, please. Because having
The Doom mod.
it basically is the duct tape mod for F.E.A.R. Because like, I'm sorry, having a limited flashlight is stupid. It's stupid.
Oh yeah, and you turn it off and it just recharges
Yeah.
like all the way super quick anyway. So it's like, what? Why?
Yeah. No, it's dumb.
Yeah, it had to have been made with the idea like it's going to create some tension. Like, I will say, it happened very rarely, but there'd be times where I'm going down a dark hallway and then all of a sudden my light goes out, I'm shrouded in darkness, and maybe I hear something skittering in my ears. The rare instances that happened, that was kind of cool. But that got old real fast, and then it was just like, oh, fuck, now my flashlight's out, let me stand here while it recharges. Killed the pace. So, okay, glad we're kind of on the same page.
Yeah, and I think, okay, if they wanted to, because I agree, I can see, I think, where their head was at with that. However, if they were going to do that, because I'm clearly a game designer, but like if I had done that, I would have made it a pickup and just do batteries. Then that way, like, you have a flashlight. It would last longer, by the way, than just what they had with the little fucking recharge bar. But like, you would have a finite amount of power in your battery, or in your flashlight rather, and you could keep track of it with a little bar. And you could find batteries along with ammunition and things like that you could use to recharge your flashlight. That, to me, would have made more sense and probably would have still given you some of those opportunities where you're just like, shit, I haven't seen any batteries in a while, and now my flashlight's out and shit be spooky. But as it is, it just seems like it's like the stamina bar in Diablo 2. Like, it was a nice idea on paper, but completely pointless and actually just annoying. Kind of the same thing.
Yeah, I kind of wish they'd have done something like that. Again, a nice idea, but it got more annoying. Kind of made me think of, I'm going to misremember the mechanic specifically, but in Alan Wake, the whole game, you got a flashlight and you've got to balance batteries, and I think your battery slowly recharges unless you swap batteries out in real time or whatever. I mean, that was a pretty effective use, but also you use the flashlight in that game as a legit weapon too. So, but either way, anything would have been better than this.
So
all right, I think that's a good enough. Go ahead.
Well, I was to say, I mean, I don't know at what point, because we're not really talking about them, but did we want to mention anything about the DLC? Because technically it actually does like add to the story.
I didn't even play it.
I read about it.
So is that a no? Like, do we not want to bother? Or
I mean, I'm down.
I'm saying I don't care.
Neat.
So there's some DLC for this game, eh, Shane?
There sure is.
Yeah, I heard there's DLC.
Yes. Okay. So there's two. I'll make it brief. I enjoyed my time replaying this game so much that I went and played both the DLCs because I hadn't done that back in the day. So there's two. There's Extraction Point and Perseus Mandate, as we mentioned in the brief history. So Extraction Point is the one that I think honestly matters more. Perseus Mandate is just like, okay, that's neat, but not really relevant, because Extraction Point picks up right after the ending of F.E.A.R. Like, as soon as you see that helicopter thing happen and whatever, it picks up right there, and you pick up again as Point Man. Your helicopter crashes when Alma shows up being all spooky like she do. You then have to like basically navigate this deserted city now that it's been wiped out by this giant explosion and whatnot. And it has 6 new intervals in it, which is pretty cool. It includes some additional weapons, a minigun and a laser carbine rifle. That minigun is fucking boss, by the way. It also includes some new enemy types and things like that. But the whole idea is that, like, you continue encountering Paxton Fettle, or I suppose the, like, I don't know, manifestation of him, I suppose, along with like a heightened presence of Alma being there. But the interesting, like, kind of twist on that is, in a way, you're almost sort of like helping her, which is interesting. The Perseus mandate one, and I'll circle back real quick to the extraction point on this, on I think the story point, but Perseus mandate is just a side quest. I mean, it's fine. Like, it was fun to play through, but it was not really like necessary at all. Basically, there's like a parallel F.E.A.R team that got sent in, and you're kind of doing things and hearing about what's going on with Point Man and his group. So you're kind of like following along sort of vicariously, I guess, but you're kind of doing your own thing. You kind of expose a little side story of like some people trying to steal the genetic material from Alma and the facility to do nefarious things with them and whatever. It's not really like required. And also I will say that one in particular leaned way too much on combat, because for a relatively short DLC, it felt like it dragged like a lot. So it was okay. But anyway, I just feel like I should bring those up because, you know, they're there. And I would recommend that if anybody's going to play F.E.A.R, at the very least, I would play Extraction Point, just because it does kind of extend the main story a little bit more, which I thought was pretty cool. So
yeah,
I'm glad you enjoyed the DLC.
I looked for the DLC on my PlayStation 3. It's not available. So I think ultimately I will go back and play this game on PC, at which point I will indulge myself in it. So I'm genuinely excited. I'm curious to see how the story continues to unfold. And I don't know, any game that gives me a minigun is a good game by my standards.
I agree. Get it on GOG. It's cheap and it's part of their preservation program. They do it right. All right, let's get into the graphics. Let's get into the visual presentation. Nomad, kick this one off. What do you think of it?
So, the visual presentation, specifically from the PlayStation 3 angle, is a little rough compared to nowadays, I should say.
Sure.
No, the game looks good. The character models are okay. At least the few characters that you see. The one thing I think we kind of glossed over a few times is there's not a ton of enemy variety. They all kind of look, well, they all are the same for the most part. But I will say where the game shines, while we did say that the game is repetitive in the environments that you go through, office buildings and sewers, that kind of thing, I did like how they were presented for the most part. On the PlayStation 3, they looked pretty good. I was more so impressed with the lighting effects more than anything, and they had to be good in this game, or else really it would just lose that creepy, tense vibe that it's trying to build. I like the lighting effects from your flashlight, the flickering lights, the bullet time visuals when you're in bullet time and things are slowing down. We laugh, but I mean this in all seriousness. Seeing someone's body come apart piece by piece in slow motion, graphically, it looks pretty stunning, even on the PlayStation 3
Yes.
using that as a base. And the way that the bullets whiz by, they'll hit things. Sometimes, too, like, it's not really visually represented all that well, but, like, if bullets are hitting around you and you're behind, like, a cement wall or whatever, dust will rise up and kind of obscure your vision a little bit, too. There was a little bit of that I appreciated. Visually, I think the game's good. I don't think it aged particularly well, but I have to imagine it's a whole different story when you're playing on PC and maybe even installing a mod or two, but PlayStation 3 is not where I'd go for a great visual experience.
Yeah, and just kind of looking back at that time, what is it? PlayStation 3 was not the system you wanted to port to.
No.
Especially during that time period. Because 360 was one of the first consoles to have the x86 architecture. And Sony was like, we're going to use the cell and all of your developers are going to fucking like it. All the developers were like, we do not fucking like this. So, especially Western developers, they're just like, we're going to take this PC game, we're just going to put it on the Xbox and make it good. Sony fans, we'll figure it out eventually. That's how it went there, it felt. So that makes sense. I haven't compared them side to side, but I'll get to my thoughts here in a second. Shane, what did you think of the game graphically?
I mean, I'm going to be probably not the most reliable source of information, considering I admitted that I modded this. So, I mean, you know, take it with a grain of salt. I mean, I can tell you
Sure.
that I can in fact confirm that that Nomad is correct. It does look very good on a PC with just a light bit of modification, particularly when you're running it full screen on a 3440 by 1440 ultra wide curved monitor. It looks fucking incredible, actually. So yeah, no, I mean,
soft flex there, by the way.
with a little bit of elbow grease, a little bit of love, it still looks damn fine. I think stock, it's, if we're thinking in contemporaneous terms, I remember really enjoying the visuals back in 05. Also the performance. I think that's also important to note, is that on PC, because I know Nomad mentioned that I think there were some issues with the PS3, but like on PC, it runs very, very well. So no, I mean, I sameness aside, because I will concede that point. Although, again, I really think part of it is just my straight up bias about the fact that I really love this game, but also the gameplay is so good that I almost kind of didn't care. Like, I know that's not like, it's not an excuse, right? I'm not like excusing the fact that they're like, oh, this is the 12th office building you're going to go through in this game. Enjoy. But at the same time, it's like, I really didn't actually care all that much, because I was so invested in the gameplay and seeing what was going to happen next with Alma and Paxton and all that like, it was kind of whatever. But I think the environments that were there were presented pretty well. I have more to say about the sound design, I think, so I'm going to save it for that.
So I'm gonna side more with the Nomad side of things here. I think the character models look very time specific. They look like early 360 models. I think Fettel looks like the food critic from Ratatouille a little too much. And
great. I can't unsee that now. Thank you.
It just it's a step below the character models from Gears of War. I think like the general actual characters. I think the enemy character models, because they're all in armor and it requires a lot more like circle and spherical models, look better than the actual character models. I think they look really good. I think that's because there's not as much detail that's required in it. And I was actually very impressed by it. Not a lot of variety, but I don't really care because they did look good enough. So yeah, enemy models, I think look superb. I really think they do. The environments, you said this, Shane, you said this, Nomad, just a little too samey. Just not a lot of variety in the environments. It does actually feel like you're going through a corporate tower the entire time. A little too much. Again, this is where it gets to my criticism that I wish the game was about 25% shorter, because that wouldn't have dragged on as it felt like it was starting to drag on in terms of its visuals. And that's one of the key sticking points. It's like, oh, it's another little industrial area. It's another rooftop area. Does it look any different than the previous one? Not really. It looks kind of the same. It's not really a hallmark to hang your hat on there. Where it does shine, though, is a lot of the flame effects, a lot of the explosion effects, the use of shadows. The use of shadows in this game is really, really good. And I think like when you use the flashlight correctly, that's where you really get to see that part stand out. As much as we were shitting on the flashlight a little while ago. So in terms of the atmosphere, when it wants to emphasize the atmosphere, when it wants to go that direction, it does it very well. But again, like I said, I don't think they do that enough to the point where it's truly flexing its graphical muscle. Now, I did play this on the 360. I didn't get any slowdown from what I remember either, so it is very well optimized for the Xbox 360. And if you do play this on a Series X, it's buttery smooth. It controls very well. And this is coming from someone who doesn't really naturally notice the difference between 60 and 30 frames per second. I definitely noticed it here It controls a lot better, performs a lot better, moves a lot better on the Xbox Series X. As it should, you would imagine, if there's an upgrade patch available for it. But there's no real avoiding that. Every once in a while, it does stick out, especially going back to that point when we're talking about that jump, Nomad, about that, like you kept falling in the pit and you're looking down, you're looking at the platform and stuff like that. There are stuff like that. And the character models that are like, yeah, guys, this is an early Xbox 360 game, just so you know. There are those reminders a little too often, but is it enough to ruin the entire immersion? Is it enough to pull you out of the game and be like, oh, wow, this is shit? No, it's not. I think that overall they do a really good job of things. I think it has held up over the years, surprisingly well.
And I think
with some exception
that they were aware to some extent that the environments were a little too similar for most of the runtime of this, because I actually think both. But for what I said about it dragging a bit much, Perseus Mandate actually does a really good job of varying up the environments, like a lot. I was actually kind of impressed with that. Just throwing that in there, that I think they might have realized that fact, because like that one also throws you like into initially sewers, but then you start going deeper and you start going into like the old city that was built, like where the new city was built on top of it. And that's like a whole new like creepy vibe. And they use that really well. So there's a lot of like variation there. So
it's good. But since you mentioned the sound, let's get into the sound. And I'll start with you, Shane. I don't think you've started off a section yet, and you were anxious to talk about it. What do you think of the game's sound design?
I think the sound design's phenomenal. They have an incredible attention to detail in this that I think would be easily missed, but it's really just the little things. Like I'm not, again, this is going to be in the same vein for me as something like Condemned, where I kind of don't care about the soundtrack necessarily, because there is one, but there really isn't one to speak of. It's mostly ambiance, but I think that's absolutely appropriate. The sound design, however, there's all these little things that I was always constantly impressed by. Just like literally like, okay, for instance, there's a whole section where you're along the rooftops of the corporation building and ATC. You don't hear it normally if you're just like in sort of like any of the like mid sections of the rooftops. But if you get yourself like right to the edge of the roof and you hear the sounds of the city, like car horns and traffic and like all of the things you'd expect to hear from a city, which, I mean, sounds kind of stupid that I'm like highlighting that, because you're like, yeah, duh. But they didn't have to do that. Like, and the fact that like that's there, again, it's one of those things that's like they did it even though you might never notice. I just really appreciate it. I really like that fine attention to detail like that. And that kind of runs through most of this game, where everything sounds the way it should. The combat sounds are punchy as hell. It's part of what makes the shotgun so good. Any shotgun in any game could obliterate people, but if it doesn't sound like it's kicking you in the shoulder, then like it's going to feel bad. That is not a problem here. But like all of that attention to detail, like the materials that are on the ground, like will have different footstep sounds if you're stepping on them, like to the point of like even just little tiny refuse piles will specifically have different sound effects where it sounds like you're crunching on paper and shit than if you were walking on hard floor or whatever. And again, we take a lot of these things for granted, but I'm pointing it out because it was something that stood out to me, because it was something that I was like, oh no, they really paid attention to this. Because again, just generally a lot of games, though they do similar things, they don't always go that extra mile in that sound design department. And I think all those little touches just really kind of round out the experience really, really nicely.
Nomad, what'd you think?
Yeah, there's not a lot I think I can add to that. Shane really nailed a lot of it. I did mention near the top, the PlayStation 3 did have an issue with like the surround sound sort of sound. It was hard for me to kind of discern where certain sounds were happening. And I ended up going online to make sure it wasn't me. And I think it is a PlayStation 3 thing. But that's not to say that the sound design was bad. All of the things that Shane mentioned were things that I was still able to hear. Even if I couldn't exactly pinpoint where trajectory-wise some of that stuff was coming from, I was very impressed with all the little nuances that they put into the sound. Weapons sounded very, very beefy and very, very heavy, and that's good for a game like this. They need to. Even when you're messing around in the reflex mode where you're going slow and going bullet time, I mean, on one hand, you can just slow the audio down and it'll do what it's supposed to do, but I feel like they took the extra step and they really amplified a lot of things even when you're in reflex time. The sound of your bullet shells hitting the floor and the sound of the bullets going into the bodies, the shunk, 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 and they didn't have to do any of that, and they did it really well, and it really added to the immersion. And even those horror moments, too, where you're going down a dark hallway and you hear somebody whispering somewhere. Even with my audio issues on the PlayStation, I'm still turning my head around going, is this in the game or is my daughter in my office playing a trick on me? Because she's done that, you little shit. I know you're listening. But again, they did that very well all the way around. So I can't think of really much negative to say about the sound. It was very well crafted with a lot of love.
I'm not going to add anything here. You've already said all of it. The only thing I would say is my commentary I've already provided on the voice messages, which I thought sound a little too canned. Other than that, I thought the voice acting was really good. Just want to put that out there too. The voice acting performances were great. Yeah, sound design overall is spot on. No issues. You already went into it. I'm just would say things that you have already said, so it's good. I'll leave that be.
All right.
Well, now it's time to hear what our community thought, which I thought there would be more of. And if you want to put in more here, this is why I say that we use everybody's comments, even in the Super Mario Brothers episode when we had like 5 million of them, because we get back to here and we get not 5 million. But we will read what everyone said, and some of them are pretty long. So how can you contribute your thoughts to these episodes? Well, first of all, go be a patron for $1 a month, as little as $1 a month. You can contribute more, but it's as little as $1. And then head on over to our Discord and Patreon Pontifications, or occasionally, I've been forgetting a lot lately. I've been absent-minded, but it will post to the Patreon channel as well. And you can share your thoughts about the game coming up, and we will read your thoughts here on the show. And we are going to be starting off with Keith from the Main Quest podcast. And Keith has a long one, of course. What does Keith say? F.E.A.R. Cute acronym. A bunch of grown men playing Black Ops, but scared of a little girl. But I've been there. Back in 2003, I signed up for what I thought was a paid pharma study. Received $37 and a Red Lobster gift card, no questions asked. But what it turned out to be was a government-run focus group for psychic weapons testing. I wake up 3 days later and now my gums bleed every time someone turns on a box fan. A few days later, some guys in a black van claiming to be from Monolith show up. Real polite, actually. They option my story for a narrative experiment. Slide me an envelope of cash and tell me not to mention the girl I see in the shadows. 6 months later, F.E.A.R drops. You think Alma's scary? You should have met my neighbor back then. That guy only spoke in binary and kept setting things on fire at 2:13 a.m. like clockwork. They cut that part out of the story, sanitized it for a general audience. 13 years later, Capcom drops Resident Evil 7, has Eveline, a creepy psychic girl running the show. Sound familiar? That's my life story. I mailed Capcom a cease and desist on a Cracker Barrel napkin, but I've never heard back. Suddenly my interest goes out. I'm getting kicked out of GameStops before stepping foot into them. That's not coincidence. That's containment. If Capcom is listening to this, I own my nightmares, and I want my $40. Thank you, Keith.
This sounds like a copy pasta. Did you find this on the internet, Keith? Are you trolling us right now? It's a good story, though.
I think
like
it's a real story.
No, okay.
I think that's a real story.
Yeah.
I think that happened to him. Yeah.
That was a journey.
Fear inspired by true life events. All right. Next up, which I don't know how you're going to follow that, but it's also pretty girthy. So let's find out. We have Soha. He's doing the same thing that Chris is doing. Great. Thank you. I get to do this. F.E.A.R, aka First Encounter Assault Recon, or as you plebeians might have said during all this time in this episode, F.E.A.R, is a great game. It aged incredibly well. Still looks great to this day. It should not be understated how crucial the lighting is to this game and how it sets the proper ambiance in key moments. Shadows too. Everything about lighting is used so wonderfully in this game that it made a game from 2005 look like it was from 5 years in the future, and that is not an exaggeration. Despite being quite an action-oriented game, it manages to nail the horror aspect wonderfully. Yeah, sure, you can easily tell what are the parts made to scare you and the parts that are not, but that doesn't stop you from shitting your pants from seeing Alma right as you're going down that ladder. Yes, thank you. And getting jumped by Fettel when turning around at the bottom. Yes. All right, I'm glad we're on the same team. Speaking of the action, the AI is simple, but smart enough to flank you when the rooms allow it, and them vocalizing everything makes them seem like they're way smarter than they actually are. But bro, the weapons are so crazy. Turning soldiers into a fine red mist when you shoot them with this game's shotgun is something that simply does not exist in any other game. True. If I'm allowed to, I could ramble about this game for so goddamn long, but I'm going to finish my thoughts here because I'm still in debt from my other M rant. Superb game, easy recommend to anyone. Thank you, Soha.
Well said, Soha. So our next one is from Mass Keaton, and he's going to let me off easy because he is short, succinct, and to the point. Keaton said,
He sure is.
Never played the game, so everything I know about it, I learned from you guys. Hope you educated me appropriately. Well, Keaton, I guess your mileage is going to vary depending on your expectations.
Mm-hmm.
I know, Dad, I learned it from you.
All right, we're getting back into the girthiness with Alt. A lot of girthy ones this time.
I guess that makes it for the lack of comments, but that's fine. All good. All good.
All right, this one is from Alt. And Alt says, after refreshing my memory, I stand by saying that F.E.A.R.1 isn't a scary game. There's a jump scare in the first level when your face meets a 2x4, but beyond that, I don't think I was ever scared in the game. I think you could attribute my feelings to how people viewed Crisis when that was played earlier this year in RHRC. Dated game is dated, but on release, mind-blowing game is mind-blowing mentally. F.E.A.R is a product of its time, but it's not to say it's bad by any means. I think what makes it feel a bit dated is the fact that F.E.A.R 1 kind of looks like a Source engine game. It's not, but it gives those vibes to me. I think it has some fun gameplay, but I've also not played this in 9 years, looking at my games played spreadsheet. I feel conflicted because on one hand, I think F.E.A.R is special, a unique mixture for folks like me who like Resident Evil 4 more than Resident Evil 1 type of gameplay, where you don't feel powerless in the survival horror genre. But you're also not a god and unkillable. You're vulnerable, and it kind of gives you some psychological fear instead of spooky jump scares. This game does the same thing Condemned does, referencing the old episode Condemned came out after this game, where you will have a friendly AI and then get isolated from them for a bit, but then meet back up and it's a nice breather. Overall, the game is fun, but I do believe horror games in general kind of rely on graphics, especially atmosphere, and the lighting in the original F.E.A.R doesn't really hold up compared to the second game. Thank you, Alt.
All right. Well, following that, we have another fan of brevity, at least in this case. The one and only
Hooray.
Lethco of the Afterglow podcast, who says, as a great quizmaster once wrote, fuck everything, Alma's returned. I think that's a better acronym. I think I like that.
I think it is. It's more appropriate.
I like it. our last pontification is from SegaBoy7, who says, I remember upgrading my GPU at the time F.E.A.R was released just to play it. I remember the slowdown mechanics being awesome and the jump scares being genuinely creepy. Totally awesome game. Unfortunately, I never did finish it. Well, you didn't finish that sentence because there's no period at the end, for one. And for two, SegaBoy7, get on it, man.
Yeah. Seems like a habit.
Yeah. Gotta put a period on it, like the end of every letter of this game. Right, Shane?
Yeah. That doesn't get old ever. All right. Well, there you go. There's the pontifications.
No, it'll never get old. Never. All right. So thank you for the pontifications from our patrons that contributed this time. We appreciate it. Let's get into whether or not we believe this game holds up today in our own opinions. Once again, as tradition dictates, as we are wont to do, myself and Shane will go first, and then our guest will have the final word for this episode. I already know what Shane's going to say. I'll let him go after me then. It doesn't really matter. Who cares? The answer is yes. F.E.A.R holds up. F.E.A.R holds up. I don't think it holds up in a narrative sense. I tend to agree with some of the pontifications here and the fact that it was not. I don't find it scary. I think that it could have done more with the atmosphere and the plot than it did. If you're looking for a spooky game, if you're looking for a more atmospheric game, it does have its moments for sure. That is true. That's not why you really want to come to this game. I think that actually that perception will get in the way for the actual reason you want to come and play F.E.A.R, which is that it's a really fun fucking first person shooter. It is incredible in terms of its gameplay. It's incredible in terms of its gunplay. It's just everything feels so satisfying. I think that someone like me who's a novice, put it on easy and just have a good time with it. I think you will. And I think the AI from this time, it also has been said that AI has gotten better, which I would hope so, and also don't hope so, but it has gotten better since that time. And so if you're looking for a challenge, it's also going to offer that up to you. This is a phenomenal effort. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I came away thinking it's a good time. This is coming from someone who does not like this genre, who does not like first person shooters. So I do give this my endorsement. And if that's coming from me, I hate to say like it automatically means it, but I think it means that this is a good game in the genre. So I heavily give my recommendation, and yeah, I think it holds up 100%. Shane.
Yeah, this game's fucking awesome. Like that's not a surprise to anyone who's been listening, but obviously it has some faults, which I think we've been pretty judicious in covering in our conversation here today, but ultimately, yeah, it still holds up. It's a fantastic FPS. And for me, like, listen, if you're going into it expecting like Resident Evil 7, you're going to be disappointed because it's not that kind of horror game, really. And I appreciate that because though I am a fan of horror games, I find myself sometimes getting exhausted by them because some of them don't know how to properly pace tension and release in the presentation and the narrative. It's all tension and it becomes so overbearing that it's just it's like mentally exhausting. And that happens more often than I'd like. You will not have that problem here because it's more like you have this really killer FPS that also has just this really awesome, spooky, supernatural vibe going on. And to me, that's like perfect. Like Chris brought it up earlier. None of the spooky shit is good. It's not like Alien Extraction or whatever, or Isolation rather, Alien Isolation, where you gonna get killed if you do something wrong. It's just here for the ambiance and to add the spook factor. And I think that's exactly what it needed to do. I was always looking forward to the next scary thing to happen or spooky thing to happen. And so, yeah, man, it's a great game. They put a lot of effort into it. It's pretty obvious. The systems and the gameplay for the time were very ahead of its time. And I recall being really impressed by it then, and I'm happy to say that I feel that it still holds up very well today.
All right. Nomad, bring us home. Does this game hold up today?
Well, I got a feeling I'm going to be saying a lot of what's been said, but allow me to say it with my luscious Italian voice instead. For a game that dropped back in 2005, F.E.A.R holds up exceptionally well even today. Like, we've already talked about how smart the enemies are, how they'll flank you and use cover and try to outthink you. And you mix that in with the game's super satisfying gunplay and that signature slow down reflex mode. And then you've got gunplay that still feels awesome to this day. Honestly, the atmosphere still delivers too. The lighting and the sound design, like we talked about, and those creepy supernatural moments with Alma all work together to keep you on edge without relying on a ton of those cheap jump scares. The jump scares they do have are wonderful, Ladder and Paxton notwithstanding. But even still, though, it's hard to say this is a perfect game. The environments, like we said, can feel a little samey. Lots of gray office spaces and industrial hallways, and the graphics definitely show their age, unless you're playing on a souped-up PC. But still, stories told in a pretty minimal way, too, mostly through phone messages and short cutscenes, so that can be a knock on it, just depending on what you're in for in terms of story. But even with that, I'd like to think that we all largely agree, us three here and just gamers in general, that F.E.A.R still nails the stuff that matters. Nails the tension, it nails the pacing, it nails the killer action. To me, this game is a great reminder that with smart design and solid mechanics, those can outlast any fancy visuals of games today. At the end of the day, yeah, I think F.E.A.R absolutely holds up. I had a great time with this game, far more than I was expecting to have, and I honestly enjoyed coming home from a shitty day at work so I could jump onto this game and just get right back to it. So long as you go into the experience knowing kind of the outside visual presentation might be a little crusty if you're playing on an older system, unless you have that PC, the inside is so good, so juicy.
Great way to finish that off. Which is what she said. Giggity. There you go. Gets a rousing round of approvals. Gets a rousing round of holding up. Go play F.E.A.R, I guess. Get it on GOG. You can't get it digitally on PSN or Xbox apparently. So I guess that's the best way to play it, unless you have a PS3 or a 360 just hanging around, or a physical copy and a Xbox One or Series X or whatever. Yeah, go play some F.E.A.R. But thank you so much, Nomad, for stopping by the show and joining us tonight. I appreciate it. It's been, I tell a lot of these guests that show up for the first time that, over all the years we've been around, it's long overdue. So thank you for stopping by. And I love your show. I think you have a great show. So please let people know where they can find that show and you on the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely been a pleasure to be here. Like I had mentioned off air, I really adore the both of you. I love your show, and it's really awesome to be here. So thank you again.
Oh, yeah.
My podcast is called the Retro Wildlands. I originally started it with the intention of just going through some old retro games that I missed when I was younger and just kind of giving my thoughts. And while that's mostly still true, I really wanted to bring listeners into the experience of the game, kind of like we're sitting together on that shag carpet looking at the TV that's in like that piece of wood or whatever you'd have in the living room back in the 80s, right? And I like talking about those games that I missed when I was growing up, but I like injecting sound and music into my shows to where it's an immersive experience. So you're learning about a game maybe you've never played before, and you and I are playing it together through the show, or you're reliving a game that you've had countless hours and hours with, and you get to have a little bit of that nostalgia. So that's kind of the premise of my show. I'm on all the podcast things. If it can have a podcast on it, I'm probably there. iTunes, Spotify, you name it. I will say the easiest way to find the show and myself is going to our new website, theretrowildlands.com. All the shows are up there, links to all of our socials. I'm in the Discord community for Retro Hangover. I'm not super active, but I'm always lurking in the shadows, kind of like Alma, just poking my head in every once in a while. But that's where you can find me. I would love it if you're listening and you haven't checked us out, check us out. And if you don't, that's fine. I'm not your mom. You can do what you want. But theretrowildlands.com is where you can find me. Excellent.
Awesome.
Well,
yes. Thank you again.
Yes, indeed. And our shtick. I am legally and contractually obligated to say these things. So if you have listened this far, we hope you enjoyed your time here. If you are a repeat offender, then hi, how you doing? If this is your first time, then we hope you enjoyed your stay. And if you would like to check out more of what we do, we make that very easy for you, on purpose, one might say. You know, we reduce the friction. It's like lube. That's what I'm getting at. Okay. Anyway, it's a Linktree. Yeah, I'm bringing it full circle, man. You know. That's good narrative structure. Anyway, we have a Linktree because we're old, and you can find all of our stuff there. So you just got to head to linktr.ee/retro hangover, and all the stuff, it's right there for you in one convenient little menu. And what is the stuff, you might ask? Well, it's the show, which we are barreling towards 400 releases to the main feed, which is crazy. We've also got the Patreon that Chris mentioned, as well as our merch store, which in this audio only format, you can't see it, but Nomad is repping one of our new shirts and it is glorious. So if you want to be cool like Nomad, then you should get in on that. And let's see, we've also got socials, allegedly. Technically they exist. And then we do have a YouTube channel as well as a Twitch channel, which we stream things on. Chris, would you like to fill in any details about the goings on in those parts?
I mean, we stream stuff.
Oh, neat.
On twitch.tv/retro hangover. Things get streamed. We say things. It can get controversial in there. Some hot takes, some boring nights. You never know what you're going to get. It's kind of like reality, you know? Sometimes it's great. Sometimes you're like, why am I wasting my time? There's only one way to find out what kind of event you're going to get. And that's to show up to twitch.tv/retro hangover Sunday nights at 9 p.m. or it's over on YouTube. You know, you never know. You never know. You could have some hairy person playing Mega Man, or you could have another hairy person playing 2D Dark Souls. Either way, you're getting someone hairy. And isn't that what we all want? Hairy people that you can bury your chest in and feel warmth. That's why humans have hair, is to feel warm.
Oh God. Okay.
Bury your face in my fur.
See, I've done this long enough that I know I need to bring this back on track now. Otherwise this is going to be a train wreck. All right. We're at the end of the show. And so before Chris says anything else that might get us actually canceled, I'm still waiting for it to happen, but it hasn't happened yet. Not for lack of trying. That's it for this episode.
Trying really hard.
Yeah, real hard. So until our next attempt to get removed from the airwaves,
play with whatever Alma found joysticks.
And that is your brief history of Condemned. Oh, you did not change that.
I did not change that. I'm Ron Burgundy.
Go fuck yourself, San Diego.
I saw it 3 sentences back and I'm like, here it comes.
Well, thanks for the heads up, dick. You should hang on to that one, Ashton. That's a good outtake. All right, let me get this last line. I did it almost flawlessly. All right.
F.E.A.R.
Yeah. Shane here with a quick message. You know, the one rule Chris and I have always gone by regarding advertisements is this. It has to be something we use and can personally vouch for. If you know me, you know I love coffee. And Bones Coffee Company has been my go-to for home brewing for quite some time now. Their small batch beans come in an impressive variety of flavors like Mint Invaders from Chocolate Space, or Electric Unicorn, which I swear tastes exactly like Fruity Pebbles. And the best part? No added sugar or calories involved, just natural flavors infused right into the beans themselves. Build your own sample pack of 5 4-ounce bags to find out which flavors speak to you, or jump in head first with full 12-ounce bags.
They've even got K-Cups. Step up your homebrew game with Bones Coffee by visiting bit.ly/RHPBones. That's bit.ly/RHPBONES.